I hate videos. Now, you may be wondering, if I hate videos, what the heck am I doing here? Woohoo! Happy Wednesday, everyone. I am always excited to be able to spend some time here with you all. Just super excited also because I get to bring on an amazing guest, and we'll be talking about something that really is important, especially during May, the month of mental health awareness, and mental wealth awareness too, right? So if you and I haven't met yet, my name is Inge van Roy, and I am recognized as a connection catalyst. I help entrepreneurs and manufacturers develop a strategy so that they can stand out and connect with their ideal community. Um, I'm all about the principle of Ubuntu, which speaks about community and knowing that we as people are not an island. We all need each other. And it really means I am because we are. I'm excited because, yes, I get to talk to Tracy Borreson today, and we're talking about creating space. So if you're watching live, drop us a comment. Let us know where you're tuning in from. And definitely at the end of this broadcast, please tune in on radio. I'll be continuing the conversation on africop.co.za. um, and by the way, this conversation is taking place live here with you on LinkedIn, on YouTube, Facebook, as well as Africa Online Radio. And if you go to this link down here, you'll be able to listen live because it's an online radio station. And we will be continuing the topic. I'm just wrapping up a song actually on the radio. So awesome. Thank you to those of you who are listening on the radio. That was Freshly Ground, a South African group, music group, and they were singing Doobie Doo. And if you weren't listening on radio, I'm sorry, you really missed out. um, my name is Inge van Roy, and I'm broadcasting to you live all the way from Canada. This is Wonder Women Wednesday, and we are live on YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, as well as Africa's platforms. So please note to those who are listening on radio, please note that this is now the live portion also of this segment. It is Wonder Women Wednesday, and I get to bring on an amazing guest live on camera. So if you want to, you can come to Facebook, AfriCops Facebook page, or come onto my YouTube page and come and check it out. We are having a live video conversation with Tracy Borreson, and we'll be talking about an important topic because the month of May is Mental Health Awareness Month, and we're talking about creating space because creating space is truly the secret ingredient, the secret tool that has helped Tracy overcome the adversity that she has faced in her life. So, without further ado, I'd like to bring her on. And please remember, if you're watching live, drop us a comment and let us know who you are, where you've tuned in from, and please definitely weigh in. and be part of the conversation. Welcome, Tracy.
Hello, Inger. I'm so excited to be here today.
Thank you. Thank you for being here, Tracy. Awesome, awesome to have you. Um, for those who don't know you, won't you please introduce yourself and let them know who you are, what you do, please?
Yes, certainly. My name is Tracy Borreson. I am all about authenticity. So, when I was growing up, I fit into lots of places. And I thought that that was weird. I thought that there was like a place you were supposed to fit in. So you weren't supposed to be a dancer and also be athletic and also be at the top of the honor roll. That was weird. But for me, it wasn't we I mean, like, this is just me being me. So I struggled with the concept of authenticity for a long time. And I went to business school. I ended up climbing the corporate ladder, which is not an activity related to authenticity. And through that journey, I really realized that these are the things that are important to me about people being who they are, celebrating their unique genius, finding places that appreciate your genius instead of being shoved into a box, and having your light actively put out. Fun fact, when I was in high school, I actually had a physics teacher who made me sit underneath of a fire blanket, probably because I was talking out of turn. I talked a lot. I was mostly bored in school. But like, I had a friend who recently reflected on me and saying, like, he literally tried to put your spark out. And I was like, wow, that is true. So that is not something I believe in. I believe in igniting personal brand flames so that everybody can do things that are meaningful to them, can have a happy, fulfilled, meaningful life, and do things that they feel like are their unique contribution to the world. So that manifests as personal brand coaching. I define personal branding very differently than I think a lot of people do. It's really more
Mm.
personal expression. Um, but yeah, that's a little bit about me. I'm also a mom, very important part of my personal brand. I have a 5-year-old son who is at home sick today. So fingers crossed, he's going to watch
Mm.
a lot the whole time. Or he will.
Oh, and if he comes in and says hello to us, that's okay too. Thank you for being here, Tracy. And I think that's the biggest thing that drew me to you because I got to know about you through a live show that you co hosted with a friend. And I remember listening to you speak and thinking that you are very authentic. And I love that. So thank you. Thank you for being here and coming to share a little bit of knowledge with myself as well as the listeners. Once again, if you're watching live, please drop us a comment and let us know where you're tuned in from because we'd like to bring you on and make you part of the conversation. And if you would like to actually listen to us instead on the radio, you may do so by tuning in on africop.co.za and clicking listen live. And also, if you want to be part of the conversation through the radio, you may send us a message by via WhatsApp to +27697144520. Again, this is Inge van Roy, and I'm broadcasting to you live all the way from Canada. And this is Africa online radio station, your oasis of entertainment. So, let's go over to the comments and just say hello to the people that are watching. By the way, if you're watching live and you see the symbol in the top left hand corner, that is an open door that symbolizes creating space. That is why it's there, because we are here to create space for you and us. Whoop, whoop. We have Whitney tuned in. She says, "Good morning from Katy, Texas." Nice to see you, Whitney. Thank you. Thank you for being here. Then we have Diane. Diane Bayer says, "Good morning, everyone." Thank you, Diane, for being here. I love to see the networking that's happening in the comments. Awesome. Whitney says, "Hope your son feels better, Tracy. Mine is almost 5." Nice.
Wonderful age.
Yes, very. I miss it. Ileana, she says, she's listening live from Northwest Arkansas. Yes, Whitney, Africa is your oasis of entertainment. And if you'd like to, please come over and listen to us on the radio after this conversation, because we will be continuing it. And also, I play some amazing music, if I must say so myself. Oh my gosh. Daisy says, "Hola, she's the founder and CEO of Daisy's Interpretation Solutions. Thank you for being here." And I love um, all the networking that's happening. And Daisy says she's tuned in from Lorain, Ohio. Oh gosh, I know. Whitney says, "Sorry, it's no longer Sugarland." She used to tune in from Sugarland, Texas, but it's okay, Whitney. Reason and a season, right? Ooh. Uh, I have I have somebody, a LinkedIn user, asking me, "How do you join a radio station as a fresher?" Send me a DM. Let's talk about it, please. I love that. Definitely some networking in the comments. So, Tracy, let's jump in. Let me ask you some questions.
Yes, please.
Um, can you share with us your career journey? What led you to where you are today?
Oh, it's a long journey. So,
You
as
can give
I
us the
mentioned,
crib notes.
yeah, I'll give you the short version. So as I mentioned in my intro, I went to business school. I went to business school because it seemed like a good idea at the time to go to business school. Lots of business jobs, good way to get a job. Go to business school. Um, I when I was in business school, though, I never really found something that felt really fun for me. So I knew accounting and finance was not it. Um, I ended up picking marketing primarily because it was the only major that didn't force you to take the government and business class. And that I tried to take that class and I couldn't take it. So I picked that by default. When I graduated, I went and worked for the same company as my dad by default. Um, I stayed there for 4 years. I was kind of disenfranchised. So I was doing retail furniture advertising and kind of just disenfranchised by the whole marketing thing, right? Like it's a big company, people just throw a lot of money at it. No one's really looking at results. They just are doing things. And I was like, I don't know if I have a problem with marketing or if I have a problem with advertising retail furniture. So let me go and explore and see what else I can learn about myself. So I went to work in direct mail, which I actually really liked because I worked with a lot of small businesses. I ended up moving to Vancouver, which is on the west coast of Canada. My whole family is in Alberta. I was there for a few years and it was just really hard to be alone in Vancouver. So I ended up coming back to Alberta, joined a marketing automation company. Which again, it's not that the services are bad. It's just that for me, it felt like I was just doing a bunch of stuff that didn't mean anything to me. And the number of times over my career, I said to myself, what am I doing here? Kind of culminated during COVID. So I was at home working my corporate job. I was senior vice president of sales and marketing at the time. My husband was at home working his job. He works for a big national company. My son, who was not quite 2, was at home because he couldn't go to daycare because the daycare was closed. We got locked down with my parents, which was good for childcare, but probably bad for everybody's mental health. And it was like, so this is my experience. I was sitting upstairs in my son's bedroom. So I had my computer on his dresser. I was sitting on like a high top stool from our bar set. And that was my workstation because we don't have 2 offices. We only have 1 office. My husband was in the office. And I would sit there and work, and I would hear my parents playing with my son. And I was just like, I wouldn't rather be doing this work. And I would rather be with him. And it was just in that moment, what it made me realize is, while I do want to do something meaningful in terms of work, I wasn't doing something meaningful in terms of work. And it's not that it wasn't meaningful to other people. I think it was meaningful to other people. I think I served my clients well. It wasn't that. It was just that it wasn't meaningful to me. I didn't want to choose it. And once I had that realization, I knew there was an expiry date on my employment there. And I quit. I thought about it for like 3 days and then I handed in my resignation. And I've been on what I consider my personal branding journey ever since then, because what I realized, and I think this happens maybe specifically in marketing, is that my entire career, it had been my job to be the voice of someone else, to be the voice of other people's brands. And I didn't know what was meaningful to me. So I had to figure it out. And sometimes I got it wrong. Sometimes I got it right. But it has led me to what I call foundational personal branding, which is not about colors and taglines and the tip of the iceberg, so it is in marketing, which is what other people see, but it's that foundational piece about who are you, what do you want to contribute here, and how do you want to bring that to the world. And then we can get a graphic designer to reflect that in some nice colors and a cool logo, right? But that's the end thing. And you can have all this experience creation that exists without having a fancy logo or different colors than anybody else. You can create an experience by being you. So how can we get to the point where we show up, whether that is as an entrepreneur or even in a corporate job, how we can just show up and say, hey, this is me. This is why I'm awesome. I'm not awesome at that. Like, I can't help you with graphic design. I'm terrible at graphic design. I will never be a graphic designer. Those people see the world differently than me. And thank God for them, because I wouldn't want to do it. But that's kind of the point, right? Let people do what is in their hearts, what is meaningful to them, what is beautiful to them. And if we have more conversation about that, then how can it be available for more people?
Yeah. I love that, because when I think about what you're saying, and I think I can summarize it in this: how can you show up authentically and make an impact, right?
And not or, and.
And yes,
Yes.
right? Yes, we want you to be you. We want you to show up as you because, as Dr. Zoe said, there's only one you.
That
So
is
be
truer than
you,
true.
right? Yes. And, you want to show up as yourself because other people are taken. You need to show up as you. You need to be authentically you and be true to yourself. And I think a lot of people don't understand it the way that we do, in that you can look at somebody and admire what they do, and you can actually also decide that you would like to emulate them. However, what that also means is you don't want to take what they do and do exactly that. No, you want to take what they do and make it your own so that you can show up as you, be authentic. And in that, you allow people to actually connect properly, like on a one on one level, right?
Mhm.
And make an impact. I love that.
Yeah.
So earlier on, I shared that the main thing about me is that I love, love, love people. And Ubuntu is the biggest thing that you ever have to know about me. And what does Ubuntu mean? For those of you that are tuned in, maybe one person that's tuned in that doesn't know what it means. Ubuntu means I am because we are. It speaks about a sense of humanity. It speaks about yourself in relation to the people that are around you, to your community, right? So that's what community is to me. What about you, Tracy?
When you told me you were going to ask me this question, I was like, this is actually tricky for me because community is more of a feeling for me than like a definition. One of the examples I always think of is like your community on your street where you live, right? A lot of people will refer to that as my community. I live in Calgary, the communities are named, right? So people will say, like, I in Bridgeland or I live in Evanston. And there's like this concept, a logical concept of community that says people in the same place are a community. But I don't know about you, Inger, and those listening as well, but I've been in places where I did not feel like I belonged there. It's actually one of the reasons why we moved
Right?
from the city to the country, because I didn't feel like I was a part of it. And to me, that's a big piece of community, is feeling like you're a part of something. And feeling like you're a part of something to some degree just defines that you chose to be there, that I choose to be in this place. I choose to make a
Mm,
community out of this. So when we moved to our new place, I was like, okay, I want this to feel like a community to me. I
mhm,
don't want it just to be like houses next to each other. I want to know my neighbors. I want to like know that I want them to know Nicholas, my son. So like if they see him riding down the street, they're like, oh, hey, there's Nicholas. And everyone kind of like watches out for each other, right?
yes.
I want to know the kids next door. I want to know people. And so what I
Mm,
also know from my time in Vancouver is that just because you slam people all together in one place does not make them a community.
exactly.
So I was like, how can I curate this? How can I nurture this into the type of community I'm looking for? It involves having conversations with people. And sometimes that, even for me, some of you who know me might think like, oh my gosh, Tracy's such an extrovert. She must have the easiest time meeting people. I'm extroverted in specific scenarios, and I'm actually very introverted in other scenarios. And when I feel like I'm the new person and everybody knows each other already, I I feel very introverted. So coming into a new neighborhood is actually feels that way for me. Like I have to put myself out there and I feel super
Mm,
vulnerable doing it. And
mm,
I also know that if I want to curate the type of community I want on my street, I have to do that.
yeah.
Right. So now that it's finally summer or summer-ish in Canada, it could
Yeah.
still snow. So let's not jinx it.
Right?
But I was like, we have this really big deck in our backyard. And I was like, I want to do like deck open house, like every Sunday from 2 to 3 p.m. And I'm going to like I'm going to print out brochures and put them in people's mailboxes. Be like, this is happening. You can come. You don't have to come, but we will be outside, weather permitting,
Mm,
and come. Like we'll leave the side gate open, come and hang out, share a story, and just meet and greet people. And is that the one way to create community? No, but this is my interpretation of what I can do to create community, the type of
mhm.
community I want, the way I want to feel in community through my
Yes.
actions. And I think that the choice of participating and the active curation is something that's really critical in feeling like you're part of a community, because it's not just one of those things that we can be served, right?
Yeah.
Like we just show up and people are like, here's community for you. Because
No.
I, they might not know what community means to me, right?
Yes.
So, and that's why I love asking this question, Inger, and why, if those of you in the audience haven't answered it for yourself before, I would encourage you to like, what is community to me?
Mm,
And how can I create that?
I
Because the
love it.
creation is available in person, it's available online, it's
Online.
available on different platforms, right? It's available if we look
Yes.
at ways that we can uniquely do
I love it because, you know, when I speak to my clients and I speak about community, you can go ahead and take a sip.
that.
Um, Tracy's waiting to drink some tea, I think.
Yes, tea. Tea drinker over here, no coffee for me.
I've actually I quit coffee in October. I used to
I
drink.
quit coffee when I was 6, when my parents fed it to me because I was thirsty, and that was the only thing in the car. And then I got really sick, and that was when I quit.
Oh my gosh. I think I need to tell that story to my husband.
Yeah.
But um I wanted to say that, it is very important to know that we get to choose who is in our circle, right? We need to actively curate our community because remember, um, there's a quote by Jim Rohn that speaks about, the 5 people that are in your circle, right? Because the people that are close to you, you end up taking on some of their attributes sometimes. Whether that person swears like a sailor and then you end up swearing a bit because of them, or whether that person is very negative and is always complaining, you might actually take on that negativity and start complaining a bit more in your life. So you need to be careful on who you allow in your space, who you allow to pour into your life. Because I promise you, even if you don't intend it, there's going to be some pouring, right?
Mhm.
So it's important to curate your community. Speaking of community, let us just go ahead and read some comments, please. I see. Oh, I see. And I found out that this is Noreen Rampono. She is a fellow presenter, and she says, "My short sleeves are making her feel cold." And she says, "Welcome to you, Tracy." Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Oh my gosh, I had a giggle at that actually. Um, then my first solo guest, Babaloa Solombela, she's tuned in. She says, "Good evening, Inga. I'm listening from Johannesburg, Cape Town. I mean Johannesburg, South Africa. Great show. Thank you for being here." Oh, and ABD Barra says, "Good evening." Daisy says, "I love your down to earth way." Speaking to you. I was just speaking about this with my colleagues earlier. Yeah, that is something that I've loved about Tracy. And Whitney says, "Be you and make an impact." I also have some comments on the radio WhatsApp, and I just want to read it because we have a brand new presenter tuned in. Her name is Jenny, and she says, "Hi, I'm tuned in." She's a busy teacher, but she's finally found some time, and she's asking for a favor. She says it's her son's birthday, and his name is Monet Berstet. She asked me to wish him on air. So happy birthday to you, Monet. She says, "You are such an amazing son and brother, and she's so proud to be your mom. Thank you also to his beautiful wife, Tatum, for pampering him on his special day." I love that. Thank you. Thank you for sharing this with us, Jenny. Um, oh, so Jenny also says, nice chat, ladies. Tracy, you're an ambivert. Yes, I was gonna tell you I am too. I There are times when I'm extroverted and there are times when I'm introverted. You know, walking into a space like you said where everyone knows each other, yeah, it can be very daunting. Um, Let me ask you a question. We're gonna be talking about creating space, but because you're an ambivert, do you create space for yourself to rejuvenate?
Historically, I'm terrible at that. um, I feel like early on in my career, I got caught up in the hustle and bustle of corporate, and like I had a full-time corporate job. I taught dance on the side. Dance has always been kind of a personal expression piece for me. So while some
Mm,
people always looked at it as a like second job, I was like, literally, I get paid to do the thing that's the most fun for me. So I'm just gonna go with that. I often say I would do this even if I wasn't getting paid. Um, and those are also the things, side note, that are so rewarding for you to be able to do, right? What do people want from you that they will actually pay you for that you would do for free? Um,
right?
Different conversation, but something to of note. Um, it's been probably for the past 8 months or so something that's really been a priority for me, creating space. And we can go into my my trigger events for that, as
Mm,
part of the conversation if we want to. But I really got to the place where everything felt heavy. Like everything was just
mm,
going for a workout felt like I
mm,
had to. Having conversations felt like I had to. I didn't want to. I run my own business. I didn't want to have conversations with people, which are the things that lead to business, right? Like I didn't want to do anything. And I just kept trying to do more things that I didn't want to do. And it
yeah.
was not the answer for me. Um, I needed, and I'm very lucky because I have intentionally curated my network of people full of really supportive, really knowledgeable people who have different methodologies that they work. So whether it's spirituality or embodiment, mindset coaching, right? Like I have been a sponge for as much as I can be. And similar to what you were saying earlier, Ingor, is like you can take advice from people, right? If somebody's
Mm,
doing something that you admire, you can
mm,
try it on. And if it
yeah.
fits you, then that's
Right.
great, right? Like for example, I have an embodiment coach right now. And one of the things that I haven't been good at is creating space for embodiment every day.
Mm,
So I set an alarm on my phone at noon every day and it says embodiment time. So I just take all I do 3 deep breaths to like feel my body. What is my body feeling right now? Am I feeling stress? Am I feeling, and it's not
wow.
about guilt or even addressing it. It's just about feeling what I'm feeling because it's a practice. So to
Yeah.
get good at it, you have to do that. Creating space, same thing. In order to get good at it, you have to practice it. And the first time I practiced it, it felt risky. Like I didn't know how this was going to go. And so my example was so I've experienced a couple of miscarriages in my family building journey. And they
Mm,
weighed very heavily on me. And as much as people will tell you there's nothing you did wrong, like you, I couldn't anyway help that mind
mm,
narrative of like, what
mm,
could I have done? What do I need to do differently? How do I need to change my diet? All of these things to fix myself. And my brain was just overwhelmed with
yeah.
them. And I am a verbal processor, something I have learned about myself over the years. a reason why I had to sit under the fire blanket, but also an important piece of my expression. And it's how I explore my own thoughts, right? So
Yes.
I said to my husband, like, I need to talk about this. Right? I have to get words out of my body. And he was like, I can't talk about it, right? Like, it's too emotional for me to talk about it because it makes it more
Mm.
real. For me, it's already real, right? So I
Yes.
need to talk to somebody about it. And I was like, I don't need to talk to you about it. I need to talk to someone about it. So I got a grief counselor. And like, God bless her. I would be in a very different place if I did not have her. If you're going through grief counselor, please find one. They are amazing. And
Mm.
I said to him, like, well, how you can help me is make time for me to see the grief counselor. That is what I need. And that was my first time ever prioritizing
Mm.
making time for like being and
Yeah.
like being emotional, feeling feelings, exploring my feelings.
Yeah.
And once I did that, then I started to be able to turn it into a habit. So
Yeah.
it's the first time, I don't know that there's a way that you can get to doing that the first time without being afraid or without feeling vulnerable or without it feeling risky. I
Mm.
think you have to do it and take the risk. And
Yeah.
hopefully, like me, you'll see, like, oh, okay, that was a risk worth taking. That made me feel different. That made me be able to. I was sharing with Inger yesterday this opportunity where like I was having all of these emotions and like I had two miscarriages and then my aunt who was like a twin sister with my mom passed away and then my father-in-law passed away in like less than a 12-month period and it was just like there was just a lot of sadness. And one day I said to my husband, I'm like, I need you to take Nicholas and go to your mom's for dinner and I need to be here by myself and I just need to process emotions. And I sat and I watched The Greatest Showman, which is a great movie if you haven't seen it. And I cried. I cried the whole time for like, it's like a 3-hour movie. I cried the whole time. And as soon as it was done, I was like, oh, I feel great. Because I took the time I needed to
Yes.
process what I needed to process. And I didn't
Yes.
push through. I didn't pretend I wasn't sad. I created space for me to process that. And then I got to be a loving mom, loving wife, productive human when
Mm.
everybody got home because I took that time for myself. Um,
Yes.
and I don't know, I haven't met anybody yet who's taken that kind of time for themselves and it didn't end up being a positive experience. But it might also be in like how you've created the space for yourself because there's unique space that is helpful for different people. But yeah, that's part of my creating space journey.
That's awesome.
And whether you're an ambivert or extrovert, I had this, not that, again, we're not talking about this, but I had a really interesting conversation a few years back with a friend of mine who very heavily identifies as an introvert. And I primarily identify as an extrovert, mostly because I get energy from being with people. So that's why I
Mm-hmm.
put myself into that camp. Um,
Mm.
and so I was like, this would be such a great conversation to have for people because I think a lot of times people think extroverts don't need to rest because they just like being out and being social, but that doesn't mean you don't need to rest. And it doesn't mean that introverts don't like to be social. It just means that there's a social construct that works for introverts and there's a different social construct that works for extroverts and there is also a rest construct that quite
Right.
honestly introverts are much better at building and extroverts very easily get overwhelmed because I would love to be on calls all day in conversations
Mm.
with people. That would also exhaust me. So I need to
Yeah.
create space to balance that. So it's about figuring out
What
what
works for
gives me
you?
energy and when I'm deprived of energy, how do I get it back?
Yes.
And that's a very unique journey for everybody.
Yes. Absolutely. So, if you are newly tuned in, please note that yes, you haven't stumbled across the wrong station. This is Africa online radio station. We are your oasis of entertainment, your cups of vibe, and we bring you only the best in local and international music. Um, of course, we are live on camera with Tracy Borreson, my guest today, and this is Inga van Roy, and I am bringing you an awesome segment called Wonder Women Wednesday, where we highlight ordinary women making an extraordinary difference. I just want to bring us back to comments that people have been making. I see Whitney highlighted what we said, be you and make an impact. I love it. And then I see Facebook user, but I've looked it up and it says this is Amanda McDonald van der Westhuizen. She says, I love the way Tracy explained that. Great show, all the way from Cape Town, South Africa. And she also says now she understands what the term ambivert means. And that's also her. I have Chinedu tuned in. He says, hello, everyone. Thank you for being here, Chinedu. Thank you for tuning in. Um, Tracy,
Inga.
let's go back. I want to ask you. So, you explained your career journey and where you are today. So, how does what you do today relate to community?
I mean, in my experience of it, it is 100% about creating community, but not, again, not just building it so it's there, but creating it intentionally in a way so that it supports you in the way that you uniquely need to be supported. And so, again, a lot of times, especially in the world of work space, shall we call it, personal branding may seem like a very solo activity, right? This is personal to me. I'm building my personal brand. The point, though, of the activity is to find your people. So
Yes.
if I, regardless of whether you're trying to make new friends or grow a business or find a next job opportunity or for whatever reason, and everybody has to some degree a different reason why they show up on social media, there's a personal brand revealing that happens there, right? It's supposed to be about you. And when we look at that from a corporate or business perspective, a lot of times people will look at it as if like your personal brand is a facade that you get to hide behind. But then it's not, I wouldn't call it a personal brand. I would call it a brand, right? So
Yes.
as an employee of other brands, historically, I have been able to hide behind the brand. This is what the
Yes.
brand story is. This is what the brand
Mm-hmm.
values are. And that's what I show people. And
Yes.
each of us has different brand narratives and different
Yeah.
brand values. And the biggest win is when we can get a community
Mm.
of people aligned on those things,
Yes.
right? So
Yes.
it's about showing enough. It is not, also, let me clarify this. It is not about showing every single teeny tiny
Yes.
detail about your life
Right?
on the internet. Right?
Yes.
My
Please.
my definition of authenticity is doing and saying what you or say it. It's
Mm.
not about me telling you what you should do or say in any given moment. Right?
Mm.
If you want to, if you're this, I always use this. I think it's a great example. If you're a foodie and you love food and talking about food and tasting food and eating food and sharing food, and you want to post pictures of food on your social media, you should,
Yeah.
because that's a reflection of you. I don't
Yes.
do that because I'm usually eating like a grilled cheese sandwich. And I'm like, food is like a necessary thing for me. You got to eat it, right? And it's not like overly meaningful to me. Whereas like I like to bake. Baking is something that's more meaningful to me because I feel like it's a reflection. It's me doing something that expresses me. So my son is into planets right now. So usually so for Mother's Day, I got this new baking set, baking bowls and measuring cups and stuff. And my son was like, do you want to use this? And I was like, yes, I do. So we made sugar cookies and they are shaped like the planets and they are decorated like the planets. And so we get to combine a love of mine and a love of his, and we get to do something fun together.
Adorable.
That says something about me, right? So if you go like, I didn't post the pictures of this weekend, but we've done it once before. If you go way back on my LinkedIn profile, you'll see pictures of planet sugar cookies. And literally we made a Jupiter. It was like bigger than my face. Really. But that's meaningful to me. So it makes sense for me to show that to people. The number of people who know I make scones is like ridiculous because it's my thing. I bake scones, right? I don't bake cakes. I don't bake macarons. I'm not that fancy. I just like to bake. So I bake these drop scones and I call them cupboard scones so they can have whatever's in my kitchen cupboard today inside of them. That's a reflection of me. I used to play competitive basketball, so I talk about basketball related things. I am a mom, so I talk about mom related things, right? And a lot of times when people think about a personal brand from a like work perspective, they will think like, well, that's way too confusing, right? I'm like, you're confusing people. What are you selling, right? And this is where I always like, I can see the break between people who like really get marketing, which is at the end of the day storytelling and making connections with people, versus the people who are trying to sell you marketing coaching. So you have to be like kind of careful about internet and providers, right? But this isn't about you being a one-dimensional human, because you're not a one-dimensional human.
No, you're not.
People who are buying your services aren't actually buying a one-dimensional human. They're buying you. So don't you want to show them who you are? Because this is, I think this is a great example too. So on my LinkedIn profile, my tagline talks about how history says we can't belong unless we're the same. But what if we could create togetherness based on uniqueness instead? And so people are like, well, that doesn't tell people you're a personal branding coach. No, it doesn't. What it tells people is that the most important thing to me in curating a network on LinkedIn is that people who believe in togetherness based on uniqueness unite here. This is where you come if this is what you believe. Because quite honestly, you're never going to be my client if you don't believe that. Because we are going to be too far apart in what we believe about humans. And that's fine, right? It doesn't make you bad. It just means this is the wrong place for you. Another reason why I think it's all about community, right? Because it's about helping me identify who are the people who believe the same things, who celebrate the fact that I'm a mom and sometimes reschedule my client meetings because I have a sick kid at home. The people who understand, like the number of people who have been my clients who have been athletes is a high percentage because I speak in basketball examples, right?
They can relate.
Get it. I love nerdy things, right? I got a whole bunch of Harry Potter stuff where I'm not here. I got Loki over there, right? Like I love Star Wars. I use a lot of references about those movies in my coaching, and people who don't get them don't resonate, right? And it doesn't make my examples bad, and it doesn't make the fact that they don't resonate bad. It just means I have a more direct path to the people who get me, so I can be me when I show up and coach, or when I show up and post on social media, or when I show up and have a conversation with someone in the line while I'm at the coffee shop, right? Like I just get that practice of being me because there are people who like that. And it's not that all people will like all bits of you. Right?
No.
But it's about showing them the bits so that you can say like, if you're getting coached by me, I'm probably going to make some kind of baking. reference. And often people leave a coaching session hungry because I end up talking about, I have this chocolate cake analogy, which makes everybody not hangry, hopefully not angry, but hungry. And that is okay. It's good, right? It helps me find my people. So
Yes.
personal branding at a foundational level is about faster opportunities to connect with your people,
Yes.
which is building a community at the end of the day.
And through authenticity.
You got it.
Diane says, no, personal brand should be your authentic self. People want to know you. And I want to say that this you should have been capitalized. Yes, people want to know you. And people buy from people, not from businesses. So they need to know you, right? Ileana says, sounds like my tortillas, instead of the round, they actually look like the United States map.
I love that so much. Can you make Canada shaped ones, Ileana? Because that'd be
Right?
great.
And then on the radio chat on WhatsApp, uh, I want to go back actually because Chrislyn said this. She says, really, so true. We need to create space for ourselves and our well being. Jenny says, thank you for sharing, Tracy. You are so courageous and amazing. And I think she's speaking about, you sharing that you've had two miscarriages and how creating space allowed you to, and I must say, like, it's not like it's something that you will get over,
Mm,
but it allows you to cope more,
mm,
right?
yeah.
Um, Chrislyn says, yes, we need to make time for ourselves to deal with our emotions, to make us better for our family and our professional lives. Exactly. Ooh, we have somebody, Brenda Stain, she's tuned in. She says, good evening, Inga, and everyone. I'm tuned in. And I want to point out something that Janie actually said. She says, tears are so cleansing. People often say, be strong, put on your big boy or girl pants, when we need to just weep.
Oh, can I share a very brief story about that? Because
Yes.
so the other day, I like closed my toe got caught under the door and it just like the door scraped the top of my toe. It was
Oh,
not serious. It was not serious, but it hurt
yes,
a
I can feel
lot.
it.
I know. And so I was like, my husband was like right next to me and he was like, are you going to live? I'm like, yes, I'm going to live. He's very supportive. The story makes him sound unsupportive. So I apologize. But so at the same time, I was like, okay, my toe is bleeding. I'm not dying, right? But I need a band aid and it really hurts. So I sat down on the floor in the bathroom and I cried because my body was saying cry, right? Like these tears just need to come out for this purpose right now. And I don't know, I cried for like a minute. Then I got a band aid and then I went on with the rest of my day. But
Yeah.
it's really interesting because I could have just sucked it up. I could have. It's like it would have been quote unquote easy to just suck it up. Except I would have been doing that by stuffing down how I needed to express myself in that moment.
Right?
And I'm trying to teach my son, who's 5, that like if you're sad, if you're scared, it is okay, right? Like
Yes.
you can show it. It's okay.
Yeah.
And so I did. And you know what's so sweet? Kids are so sweet, right? He sat down next to me and he put his arm around me and he was like, it's okay to cry, Mom. That's what I say to him. And I like it seems easier to just suck it up. Like this
Yes.
should be a thing. I can just suck up, right? Like I have a cut on my toe. I didn't even lose my toenail, right? Like it's not a big deal. But
Yeah.
it was much better just to take a moment
Yes.
and cry, and it's okay.
Yes.
So we need to again, just kind of practice moving ourselves through those mindsets of like, oh, I should just suck it up, instead of saying like, okay, that's what my brain is saying, but my body is saying, cry about it for a minute.
Yeah.
Like, how could
Yeah.
that make us feel differently?
Yeah. And you need to take that time, create that space, and
Yes.
honor the feelings that you're feeling.
Mm-hmm.
You
And
know?
honor things like joy and
Yeah.
excitement and celebration,
Yes,
right?
please.
Because how often do we like achieve something and then we're like, oh, on to the next thing, right?
Yeah.
Like, but how can it feel different in terms of an accomplishment for you if you just take a minute? I'm talking about
Yeah.
60 seconds, right? And say, like, I'm just going to celebrate that I did this for a minute. Like,
Oh.
literally, I've been celebrating that I stopped to cry because I cut my toe. Because that's me progressing personally in the direction I want to go.
Yes.
And it's worth celebrating. So take a
Yes.
minute.
Oh, I want to read this. Diane says, crying is healing and sometimes very necessary. It acknowledges the place where we are, and it helps to handle and eliminate the issue rather than harboring it from trying to not let go and cry it out. Because you end up carrying that in your body, right, Tracy? You
Mm-hmm.
end up just, it's like a trauma, actually, big or small. It's a trauma that you're carrying in your body. I want to read, Noreen said, do people not know that being vulnerable also takes strength, right?
And dare I say, perhaps more strength than not being vulnerable?
Yes, it does. It does. Um, I'll never forget, what is it? Like, I'm thinking probably about 2 years ago, before I started really um, being a guest on shows regularly. And I was on this one show, and I was talking to a coach, and we were talking about coaching services, and he spoke about something, and we spoke about COVID, and then I ended up sharing about my dad not having been well during COVID, etc. And I became very emotional. Um, and I just kind of allowed myself that time, even though I was live on camera on a show, I allowed myself to cry. And then his next question was about vulnerability. And I said,
Yes.
he asked, is it okay to be vulnerable, especially when you're a coach,
Mm.
right? Because when you're a coach, you're expected to be this person that creates space for others. But how do you create space for others if you cannot create space for yourself, right?
Yeah,
So, yeah. Uh, okay. We have only a few minutes left.
I know. I'm a talker.
It's okay. It's okay. You were vulnerable. You shared a lot with us, and that's good. So, I want to ask you, can you tell us a few ways on how to create space? Do you have some pointers for us?
Yeah. So the number one thing to do is to pay attention to your own experience. And I think this is the thing we actually do the least, which is why it's the most important first step, is just pay attention to where your thoughts feel like they're getting ahead of you,
Mm-hmm.
moving you faster than you want to go. Because the speed you want to go is what your body is experiencing. The speed I wanted to go when I hurt my toe was sit and cry, right?
Yeah.
My body knew that. Our minds try to move us faster, try to move us through it, try to process, try to let it go, right? And every time we are in our head, that's an opportunity to stop, to
Yeah.
just stop and feel what you're feeling. That is, I think for me anyway, the number one trigger in being able to say, like, okay, where I'm trying to, my brain says, societal narrative says I should just let
Yeah.
this go. It's not a big deal. I'm not dying, right?
Yeah.
And my body says I need a minute. And so just paying attention to when those two things are misaligned can
Mm.
really help you notice, okay, let's take a break. Let's take a moment. Let's create space. 1 minute. You guys like make a timer on your phone for 1 minute, right?
Mm.
And give yourself 1 minute. 1 minute is not going to make us late for anything. 1 minute is not going to make my kid feel like he's unloved. 1 minute is not going to change anything.
No.
So practice giving yourself a minute, and then
Yeah.
you can practice giving yourself more.
Yeah. And I will say that, especially in this day and age, we rush to do a lot of things. We're always rushing. Rush to get to work, rush to get home from work, rush even during our leisure time. You're going shopping, we need to rush through the store to grab everything. Why? Why? And it's something that I become more and more cognizant of, because there's been times when, because I'm rushing, I fell.
Mhm.
And my instinct is to get up and rush some more, right? But really, truly, why? Why are we doing that? We need to create that space to feel the way you feel, because honestly, if you're falling, trust me, you're going to feel, even if it's not pain, even if you're just feeling embarrassed because you fell, allow yourself to feel that.
Mhm.
You create that space and you really help yourself to feel and live in that moment. Tracy, I want to be cognizant of your time because we've now reached the top of the hour. I'd like to ask you actually, what are your final thoughts, and where can people find you if they'd like to connect with you?
Oh, the last thing that I felt like I wanted to add, because of course I was rushing when I scraped my toe as well, right? So my experience would dictate don't take a minute to cry about it because I was already rushing to do something. I don't even know, laundry, something that 1 minute is not going to make a difference to. Um, but I think for me, at the end of the day, we need to switch the narrative from I don't have enough time to there's enough time. And this has been a game changer for me in believing there's enough time to do all the things that are meaningful to me. And what that allows you to do is look at all the things that you do and eliminate some things that aren't meaningful to you. I moved from like with anxiety doing the dishes every day to I left the dishes in the sink last night and I will do them. I will do them. I will do them eventually. I will do them when it matters.
Yeah,
And yesterday it didn't matter, right? My son is sick. We're trying to get sleep. None of us sleep well when anybody is sick. And resting was more important yesterday.
yes,
And nobody died because I didn't do the dishes, right? um, and I will do them eventually. I will do the
yes,
laundry eventually when someone runs
yes.
out of underwear.
Right.
um, but there's so many things in a
Yes,
day that we do that don't have meaning to us, and quite honestly, don't have meaning to people, other people either. But we do them because we think we have to. And when we
yes,
switch our mindset from I don't have enough time to I have enough time for what's important,
yes,
it makes you look at things differently. Say, like,
yeah,
is that important? And only
yes.
you get to decide. I don't get to decide what's important for Inger,
No,
and you guys don't get to decide what's important to each other. I get to
yes,
decide what's important to me. And yes, I have to work with my team, my family, right? They call them my team. But I don't know, just like any other team, use this analogy other days. Like some days one person's the top scorer, and some days the other team, like other person's a top scorer, right? Like I'm not the top scorer every day. It's not my job to carry the load by myself all the time. It's not how a team works.
mm, mm,
So when we look at how am I contributing to the team in a meaningful way, and I can peel away all of those. I'm a bad wife if I don't have a clean kitchen. The entire time I've been with my husband, he's had a messy kitchen. He doesn't care if the kitchen is messy, right? It's irrelevant to how he feels about me. So I
Yes.
can let that go, and I can spend time doing meaningful things with them, making planet garage doors. That's a topic for a different show. But like, because that's meaningful to us, making
Yes.
planet cookies, right? Because that's
Yes.
meaningful. And putting the dishes in the dishwasher instead of hand washing them because it can. That's what that tool's
Mm.
job is there for. That's what it's there
Mm.
for. Let it do its job, right? Let you do your job, the things that are most meaningful. Find time for that. And where can you find me? LinkedIn. Find me on LinkedIn. I'm a LinkedIn gal. I'm on LinkedIn far too often. You can definitely find me there. Tracy Borreson. I am like my link is a brand that speaks. So if you're wondering if it's the right Tracy Borreson, but I think I'm the only one. Uh, so yes,
Yes,
come
you
find
are.
me, connect with me. Let's have a conversation. It is my greatest privilege to experience new personal brands that the world needs to shine a light on. So thank you so much for having me today, Inger.
Thank you so much for being here and coming and sharing some of who you are with us. You are one of the most authentic people that I know, and I'm so blessed to know you. I'd like
I
to
feel
just,
likewise.
oh, thank you. I'd like to just highlight another comment that someone said. It is okay to be vulnerable, to pause and acknowledge what you are feeling, cry, and allow yourself to feel sad. Ooh, I
Sadness is
want,
not bad. Sadness
no,
is just, it's an emotion, just like joy. It's
yes,
all part of the human experience.
yes, absolutely. And I would like to say, so a lot of people within my racial group in South Africa, so we're colored people, I'm sure many of you were cringing when Tracy spoke about leaving the dishes in the sink. Because I can promise you, my mother would have a conniption. She taught me that your house needs to be spick and span in case people come. But wie gee om? Who cares? Who cares? The people must come if they want to come. Um,
And if they
the
don't
thing,
like you because your house is messy, that's fine, but maybe not your people.
yes,
It's harder with families. We'll
yes.
leave it at that. But
It is harder with families. And I want to acknowledge somebody's been sending me private messages and they said they were commenting on what you said about authenticity being key. They loved that. And they fully understand what you were saying because naturally she is an introvert. But when she's in a space of something that she enjoys doing and being able to make a difference, then she's not so much of an introvert. Something else that they said that I want to highlight, they said, I'm not good at letting go. I do not even know how to scream. And I really struggle in that area. I'd like to give you a tip based on what you said, actually, because this is something that I learned from someone else. And that is if you struggle with letting out your emotions and you live in Cape Town or a place that has a beach, go to the beach, see that there's nobody around you if that's something that you struggle with, and let it out. Sometimes you just need to go where where the waves are crashing, where the wind is blowing, and know that when you scream, when you let out your emotions, what will happen is it will be carried away in the wind. So do that. But you need to learn to express yourself, the way you feel, your anger, your sadness. Those feelings cannot be pent up because you carry it in your body and it causes issues with your body. So make space for you, to be authentic. Thank you, Tracy, for
Inger,
all
can I
the shares.
can I share
Yes,
one more quick thing?
yes,
because I resonate so much with that, and I can't either. I can't shout, right? Like
Mm.
I grew up with parents shouting at each other. I
Oh,
have like a trauma about shouting. One of the things I recently experienced about myself is that when I was in corporate, one of the ways I used to express my anger was by slamming the phone. You remember the phones that were actually like
oh,
not cell phones, like into the thing, and
yes.
I would like slam it, and it would like make a huge difference to the point where my coach told me, go get a phone so you can
Yeah.
slam the phone. One of the other things that works for me is dance, right? So I dance it out. If I'm angry, I will jump, I will move, because the movement helps me
Mm.
process the anger as well. So I just say, if there's
Find
things where you
something.
feel like, yeah, that are limiting
Yeah.
your expression, you don't have to shout, but
Yeah.
find something that helps you get that out of your body, and it might
Yes.
be slamming a phone.
Well, thank you. And thank you to everyone who's been listening and watching. This is Inge van Roy, and this is Africa Online Radio. By the way, Tracy, you mentioned a show, and I would like to invite you to come over to Africa Online Radio and just listen to the last half an hour. I'm going to play you a song that's from that show. It's one of my favorite songs, and I think it is definitely about making space and allowing somebody to be themselves. So come over and join us. Thank you, Tracy, for being here. You were amazing. Um, Daisy says, thank you, Tracy. You're awesome. Many blessings to you all. Thank you, Daisy. Thank you to you. If you're watching live, please come over. Join us on Africa Online Radio's website, africaup.co.za. We will wrap up the conversation on that side, but I'm definitely going to be playing a song for you, Tracy. Be blessed. See you next week for another episode of Wonder Woman Wednesday. You were amazing, Tracy, and you truly are worthy of the title Wonder Woman. Thank you for being you.
Thank you, Inger.
Be blessed, everyone.